chat. Okay, we're good. Make sure I can see you guys on the screen. I'm not sure how I ended up here back to back. 12 a.m. 12 oh, it's about to be 1 a.m. in the morning. I feel like I gotta practice looking at the camera. Like I gotta practice doing the inhumane. Well, it's not inhumane. What am I talking about? I gotta practice looking at it, but it's just so weird because my screen is here, and I need to look at the chat. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Drink. What up? What up? Apparently, a Nancy Grace podcast came out, and I figured we'd listen to it. There's a couple of clips online before we get to the podcast. So, I just did a video about the Brian Entin interview with this vape shop manager. I'm tired of shit. I didn't sleep good last night because I was up late. I woke up early to take Maddie. I took a little nap in the morning. I had this meeting at 10 a.m., which I was a zombie for that meeting. But you know what the good thing is? I had these people come out and they cleaned the place, which, you know, whatever. But whatever I say in this stream, I don't know. Don't hold it against me. I'm trying to say nothing crazy. Try to be just, you know, calm, relaxed. So let's check this out first in case you guys haven't seen it. If you could hit like, please, I'd appreciate that. And also check out the channel sponsor, Swag It. And the 23rd, I believe it is, we're having a fun stream, giving away $1,000. Swag It. Check that out. So let's start with the vape shop guy, which people, they're coming for him. There's people in the comment section, they think he's suspicious. But then some people say that the other guy, Anon, they say he's suspicious. And so everybody's a suspect, I guess, in that town. Everybody's being targeted. No one's safe. Even Brian Entin popped up on a Reddit somewhere, and they were saying he was involved at one point. Let's check this out.
So, and it was more so at nighttime when they were out there drinking and stuff like that. Because I asked him, like, is it at school? And she's like, no, when I'm at night, going out to the bars or coming back from the bars. So Kaylee and Maddie would both come in very happy, very friendly. You know, they always were just such a smile on their face. Just like pretty much you would say they're the light of the world, pretty much. You know, always happy, go lucky. They always came in just chatting.
I didn't take it as sus. This guy's sus either. Everybody's sus then. If this guy's sus, everybody's sus. Nobody's safe from the online community, the wrath.
Just came with a group, like I said. They probably, I'd say 4 or 5 girls at most, all the time. They come in together. And I made a joke about it earlier. It was like...
Ellie, that's what they did to me on the other story. Ellie says, even you're involved, Mel. These crackheads try to say I was involved in the Kylie Rodney thing, too.
You know, hey, you know, coming together and stuff like that, you know, just, you know, it's nice to see you girls trying to stay safe. One of them more or less openly says, oh, yeah, we've had a friend of ours be stalked before. So this is kind of why we all travel in a group like this. And just
was it Kaylee who said that? Do you remember?
No, it was Maddie.
And I've just heard so many, throughout the entire coverage of this story, I've heard so many conflicting details. And I mentioned this in the video that I just posted, that, you know, the rumor of the stalker from I forget the guy's name. Then the family on CNN saying that they never heard of a stalker and that it was like Kaylee communicated with her family and said a lot of stuff. And so if there was a stalker, they would have known about it and that it was kind of like ridiculous. But then I swear I saw an interview somewhere else. I don't know if it was an article or video. I thought the father had said that, yeah, there is a stalker and that Kaylee had told him. Then cops investigated. At first, it seemed like they said it's not corroborated. Then they say they find these 2 guys somewhere that was just picking up girls, I guess. And they talked to them, and I guess they're cleared. Then now we're hearing about this guy where it seems he's implying that there's multiple stalkers or whatever. So I'm just kind of like, I feel like we're just constantly, I can't even keep up anymore. What's what? I don't even know the story anymore. I don't know who said what. I don't know what's whatever anymore, you know? Yo, Sinner, the whole town is like a Stephen King cast. Weirdos in every direction. Oh, I gotta fix this. This shit's all over. Kind of big. Thank you, though. And I notice when I say that, too, people, they get kind of upset, people from that town. You want me to slow the chat? I'll slow it a little bit. At 1,000, it shouldn't have to. Oh, I guess people are chatting a lot. I've said it a couple of times. The town's kind of weird, man. I mean, I don't know. I guess they say it's normal, but especially with the alleged wife beater, the alleged child beater, and attempted strangulation that's being defended. The coroner is also a defense attorney and a nurse, and she's defending that guy, the same coroner that, is related to the case. And you just look at the police activity report, all these weird ass incidents. Now they're targeting Inan. I don't know, bro. Like, I just can't. Leela, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, hi, Mel, my boyfriend, and I love watching your streams. Thank you so much. I got him hooked on it. He keeps watching your lives. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I love that. When couples hit me up, I get sometimes married people too. They tell me they're watching. So I appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
Who actually said that? So Maddie said it, and it was kind of like more mentioning, like motioning to Kaylee too, like who was right next to her. So you could tell that like they obviously all were trying to keep Kaylee safe, and to be there for her as good friends. And then to know that a few weeks later, now I won't see them, anymore, anything like that. So it's crazy.
How long before the murder about was that?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks beforehand, because I was telling them I hope they had a good Thanksgiving break and everything like that too, because I didn't know if I'd see them again. So, because with a lot of the times with the kids, with the way after the pandemic, some of the
It's a real life Twin Peaks. I took Sylvia there one time. If you're talking about that restaurant,
kids leaving waves. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to see you this weekend or not. Hey, hope you have a great Thanksgiving with your family. And that was the last I saw them.
Did they elaborate any more on the stalker comment?
They more or less kept making the comment that it always seemed to happen either by the campus or down on Main Street.
Always seems to happen by the campus or down by Main Street. And so down by Main Street, I guess, is where the bars are at. But he said there's not really, like, Corner Club is over there. I think that's what he says.
It always seemed to happen either by the campus or down on Main Street. And the last time the Kaylee more or less made it sound like it seemed like it was down on Main Street, and that the person was coming from like around the Corner Club area, and then as far as I remember, it's the guy who ended up like trying to go and talk to her, and then he gave up on it and he ended up walking away. So she thought she was being stalked up to a certain point, and then looked behind her and he was no longer behind her. So
I just want to make sure that I get it right. So just tell me again exactly what.
She thought she was being stalked up to a certain point, and then looked behind her and he was no longer behind her. So
I just want to make sure that I get it right. So just tell me again exactly what you remember.
Just more or less, I made a joke about them being in a group, and they just said, yeah, one of our friends motioning to Kaylee that she'd been stalked recently, and so that had people constantly following her around. And it's not just a one-off thing, that this is apparently something that Kaylee had tons of issues with. That apparently she always had somebody who's constantly walking behind her like that. So, and it was more so.
She always had somebody that's constantly walking behind her like that. And I saw some people commenting. I'm going to read some of the comments on my last video because some people were saying some things they weren't. Hey, what's up, iCkEdMeL? I'm going to read the comments too when we get done with this video. ASCH, thank you for the super chat. Says, I guess it's back to the purple light, Mel. Yeah, I know. I got the. I'm rocking the green lights, I guess, for Christmas. I haven't bought nothing Christmas wise. Trees, lights, whatever. I feel like we're just gonna go to family. I don't know that I'm gonna like put stuff up or whatever, but we'll see. Mo says Twin Peaks the show. Very weird. Oh, okay. I'm thinking of a different Twin Peaks. Oh, okay. Brandy, thank you for the super chat. I hope you're doing well and amazing. Says bloop bloop bloop. And in the Farley Bird Zone, it reminds me of the Wonderland of Murders in LA. What's that? I want to go there in LA. Is it an actual place or is it like a case or something? Ellen, thank you so much for gifting the 5 memberships. Appreciate that. Love you. Thank you. Very kind of you and generous. Very, very kind. Thank you. Mrs. and Mr. Steelers. Vape guy isn't sus, just stoned and has a guy mouth. My
of of issues with. Apparently she always had somebody who's constantly walking behind her like that. So, and it was more so at nighttime when they were out there drinking and stuff like that. Because I asked them, like, is it at school? And she's like, no, when I'm at night, going out to the bars or coming back from the bars. And again, living down that way.
Did she specifically mention the corner club?
Not the corner club, but just in that general direction and stuff like that. So the only reason I would assume the corner club is because that's the only bar that's down in that area anymore now. So we used to have two. One was CJ's and then the corner club. It's just corner club now. Then a whole block before it mingles. So.
How many times did you see Kaylee and Maddie? How many times would they come to the store?
I'd say, now that I'm trying to think back in my head, I've only saw them maybe like 6-7 times total. So, assume the corner club is because not the corner club, but just in that general direction and stuff like that. So, the only reason I would assume the corner club is because that's the only bar that's down in that area anymore now. So, we used to have two. One was CJ's and then the corner club. It's just corner club now. Then a whole block before it mingles. So.
How many times did you?
I don't know. We usually every year I usually go to my sister's and we do the Christmas tree and all that stuff. But this year, I'll be nice. Maddie was at her mother's at the time, and so we didn't do that. So, but you guys are right. I probably should do something. You know, something at the house. I guess. I guess for the kids, right? Trick love the kids. I'm gonna stop and let the sun shine in. Put coke in the head. Let's take a look at this as well. This is Banfield. Coroner gave graphic details to teen sister about death. What's this about? Let's check. Oh, but you know what? Hold on. Before we do that, let me just get the comments real quick about the vape store guy. Okay, people are going to target him probably. Some people probably. I think they're really focused on that neighbor, Anon. I think this poor guy, I hope he knows what he's in for. This is a weird town. I also don't understand the stalker thing. Yeah, y'all, this is a small concentrated area. We're talking about the corner club. I mean, it's probably the same people going to the corner club all the time. Somebody was talking about he was, let's see. Somebody said the corner club bar, doubt they have video due to possible underage drinking. Probably true. This guy sounds like he does a lot more than vaping. He sounded completely fine. He sounded like he's doing more than vaping. I'm in the chat. All right, let me slow the chat down. Hold on. I'm surprised. Why is there all these people on at this time of night? I'm surprised. Shocked. Okay, I slowed that chat down a little more. Let's try that. All right, let's see what else. That's what Anne Marie said. He sounded like he's doing more than vaping. Oh God, bro. Yep, he's weird, but people act weird when on the spot and on the camera and aren't used to it. Okay, we'll move on for that. Never talk to the media. He did it. Okay. Definitely a weirdo town.
That comment from the latest of the do-it-yourself interviews that Moscow police are dropping almost every day, and again, asking and answering their own questions with no reporters allowed, and it's very important to point that out.
And I heard that's like a frustration for, I think it was on News Nation or a couple of people there, the reporters, they were saying that everything is super controlled. They're just putting out these, pre-recorded videos out now. They're not doing the pressers. They're not really taking open-ended questions.
Earlier, Kaylee Goncalves, Kaylee's mother, said in an interview that her family learned about that vehicle at the same time and in the same way that everybody else did, with a press release. The victims'
Damn.
families have long complained about a lack of information from authorities. And on that front, Mrs. Goncalves related to NBC a bizarre and disturbing incident involving the coroner, Kathy Mabbitt. She says that she herself has never spoken with this coroner, but that her 17-year-old daughter has.
What?
That would be Kaylee's teenage sister. She says the coroner spoke on the phone with the teenager and gave graphic details of how her sister was murdered when asked. To help break all of this down, I want to bring in Bobby Chacon. He is a former FBI special agent and expert in criminal investigations. He also happens to be an attorney. Bobby, thank you for being here. So much to go over with you. First, about that issue where the coroner tells a 17-year-old sibling what exactly happened to her sister. That doesn't sound like protocol to me.
No, it certainly is very bad practice. I've never heard that before. Talking to a minor family member, sister of a victim. I mean, that's poor practice. I mean, all communication should be consolidated. It should be one point of contact with the authorities to the families. They should be updated on a regular basis. This way, they're not going to 3 or 4 different sources. The coroner's office, and I get it. The coroner's office operates separately than the police department, separately than the prosecutor's office. But they all got to get on the same page, and they've got to put one person in point of contact that can update the families and keep the families in the loop.
Would it be protocol for the coroner to be able to speak to parents if the parents wanted that information? I mean, they're adults.
Yeah, sure. I think that I've heard that happen before, but again, you do it in.
I thought I read somewhere that the cops were kind of going like radio silence on families because of just everything, intimate details of the case that's been coming out that should not be coming out. And so I'm not surprised at all if this is the case that like they've just stopped releasing information. Gypsy Girl, thank you for the membership. Gracias. Chrissy Lee, sorry I missed last night, but congratulations on your News Nation appearance. I watched it this morning. Thank you. You did great, and I'm proud of all your success. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I do too, Superman. I do too. I don't think they have too much, man. I'm kind of like I want to be hopeful, but
Conjunction with the investigators, because obviously there's stuff maybe in the coroner's reports that you don't want getting out, even to the family.
Yeah.
At least at this point in the investigation. So I think it's always good practice to coordinate between the coroner, the investigators, and the prosecutors that are all on board already, and they all know each other. I'm sure they've all talked at some length together. So I think that it's good practice to be coordinating all of this information together so that you don't get this lack of information or different information, conflicting information going out to the families.
So the other issue Brian was able to break today was that manager of the store said Kaylee and Maddie and her friends were always in the store. He said, I'd just seen them 3 weeks prior to their death. And he said that it was a regular conversation he had about the stalker. That the girls were worried, that Kaylee was worried, that they actually would walk in groups because Kaylee was worried, that she would change her behavior, especially downtown and at that Corner Club bar, which is the last place they were before the food truck, before coming home and being murdered. And yet the police told us that they'd run every lead they could on the stalker and couldn't corroborate it. But there's Brian, he found a manager who said, I saw these girls all the time. I talked to them all the time.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if they're parsing their words, but I think they probably have a lot of uncorroborated or what they think is uncorroborated information on stalkers or stalking behavior. It'd be very uncommon for college-age girls on this kind of campus who are very fun-loving and outgoing not to have the interest of guys that they're not interested in. And so I think that, beyond the 3 victims that are deceased here, they have friends. And it would really shock me if the police didn't have the same information from some of their extended, circle of friends, because as you said, they've been talking among each other like this. They've been talking to that store manager. It's very conceivable that other friends knew about this behavior and knew about, this person or persons. And the police are, maybe they're running out a bunch of leads that they haven't found a second or a third corroborating source for. But it's my thought that they probably are following this stuff. They just haven't gotten enough of it.
Thank you for watching. Go to News Nation.
okay. Let's see what else we got before we get. Oh my god. Let me do this. I wanted to play some of this, and this is the family attorney speaking. I don't want to actually have the video on the screen you know, ya tú sabes. Slain Idaho student's family lawyer speaks on White Hyundai.
Did the Goncalveses leave that meeting satisfied?
I don't, you know, when you're not get all of your questions answered, obviously you're not satisfied. So it's one of those things where we're hopeful and we're optimistic. And, you know, we want them to catch the person that committed these crimes.
Sidebar's Anjanette Levy sits down with Shannon Gray, the attorney for the family of slain University of Idaho student Kaylee Goncalves, one of 4 people brutally stabbed to death. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. We are continuing our coverage of the University of Idaho murder investigation, the quadruple killings of 21-year-old Kaylee Goncalves, 21-year-old Madison Mogen, 20-year-old Xana Kernodle, and 20-year-old Ethan Chapin. Their bodies were found in their off-campus rental home out in the college town of Moscow. They were stabbed to death. It is a horrible, unsolved crime. And in this 4th week, we still have no arrests, no suspects, no recovered weapon. However, Anjanette Levy, my co-host here on Sidebar, had the chance to interview Shannon Gray, the attorney for the family of Kaylee Goncalves. Now, we know that the Goncalves family, particularly Kaylee's father, Stephen, has been quite vocal with the media about his frustrations with the progress of this case. He had mentioned that they hired a private investigator, and I even recall when he announced that they planned to hire a lawyer. I'd say the basic concern that he has expressed is a lack of transparency from law enforcement and miscommunications. But before we get into any of that, Anjanette first asked Mr. Gray, how's the family doing?
You know, they're in grief, they're grieving. You know, they're trying to handle and manage a lot of things. And, you know, they've hired me to kind of guide them through this criminal justice process and how complicated it is. If you've never been involved in it before, then, you know, you don't know anything about it. You don't know the questions to ask, things like that. You know, they've gotten probably 20 to 25 media requests a day. You know, and they still have to live their lives. They have to work, they have to raise their other children, you know, they have to do those things. And so, you know, it's been, you know, the family and I are a team. We work together, and I'm just helping them through this process. So.
And that is completely understandable. And I also want to mention something else that Mr. Gray brought up, and it's important. And that is the intense criticism that has been leveled at the Goncalves family, particularly Mr. Goncalves, because what we've been seeing online and even on media outlets are people taking aim at him specifically. And while there is perhaps a legitimate...
Were they coming for the dad? Goncalves going for the dad. We had that FBI profiler that had said he called somebody, or I think he's an ex-FBI or whatever. But he said a friend of his had called him and said that he'd never seen somebody look more homicidal, something like that, than Steve. Almost implying him as like involved in the crime. I was like, oh, shit.
Legitimate question about whether a victim's family member should be revealing information to the...
I do, like, I can totally sympathize with the dad, and you know, but I'm from the outside looking in. And so for sure it could have an effect, a negative effect on the case or prosecution. But he's gotten quiet. I haven't seen him do interviews anymore. I think they lowered up and stuff.
World during this sensitive time in an investigation, it's a whole other thing for people to come up and attack and harass him. There are even rumors online suggesting the worst. They're accusing him of being involved in what happened, which is just absolutely terrible. So before we go any further into this interview, I think it is very important to hear what Mr. Gray had to say about that.
You know, the families are going through a tragedy right now, and it's emotional, it's raw, and there are some media outlets that are picking apart interviews that the Goncalves family has done, Steve or anyone else. And I would like to say that, you know, if you are in a position where you are going after the families of individuals that their daughter was murdered, you need to take a real hard look at yourself and not do that anymore. The other part of it is that there shouldn't be news platforms that are giving those people talking points, and that they need to be aware of those things. So, you know, they can say whatever they want, because we should show some compassion, some kindness, and some understanding towards all of the victims' families through this really troubling time that they're going through. It's a story for a lot of people, but it's a life. This is a life tragedy for the families. So just making people aware of that.
All right, so now let's get into the frustrations with law enforcement. Between not releasing enough information about what is happening or this mixed messaging, this has led to people losing confidence in the authorities. And this has also spawned conspiracy theories. Sometimes when you don't have enough information, there's too much information. Well, Mr. Gray talked about meeting with the different members of law enforcement and these authorities, and here's what happened.
Well, we had a meeting with the investigators on Monday. The investigators, the prosecutor, Chief Fry was there, as a few other people in the room. And, our theme going into that was accountability and communication. Accountability, meaning that a lot of the information that had gotten out had been inconsistent and confusing, not only to the families, but also to, I think, the public. You had the coroner making statements. You had the Bill Thompson, the prosecutor, making statements about targeting, and then that was walked back by Chief Fry in another statement. You had Art Bedke, within a day or two, making statements about crime of passion, and so a lot of inconsistencies in that. Consistency promotes trust, and so part of our theme going in was that there needs to be some accountability within the investigation about having really one voice. And that, they made a lot of decisions during the investigation to do things or not to do things regarding help, reaching out to the public and having the public help them during the investigation. And we wanted some answers to there. I came in with 5 pages of answers of questions, and we walked out with not much being answered at all. The second part was communication. They've done a really poor job of communicating with the Goncalves family. And most of the families. And so we wanted to make sure that they were now aware that what our expectations were, that it's the investigation, the families, and then the media. The Goncalves family should never hear anything on a press release or social media release or anything like that we don't know of first. Yeah, I hope they're receptive. I hope that they're mature enough to be able to take some criticism and understand some of the expectations and that we have. I wasn't popular when I left that meeting, by any means.
Now, he did indicate that he's taking them at their word when they say that they're hopeful the investigation is moving forward. He said it's not his job to be critical, but to merely express concerns that the family is having. Having said that, we do have to talk about his stance on the coroner. I'm talking about Waitara County Coroner Kathy Mabbutt.
Let's talk about
according to Steve Goncalves, Mabbutt revealed very gruesome details of the killings to him, and that she herself, we know, has spoken to the media talking about the toxicology reports, the extreme nature of the case, the possible murder weapon.
What y'all think about the coroner doing like a media press tour? You know what I'm saying? What y'all think about that?
Mr. Gray was not too happy about her comments.
Well, I have issues with the coroner. Number one, expressing all of her opinions over the media at, I think, at inappropriate times, number one. Number two, making a personal phone call and describing graphic details of what she discovered and what she to the family, I don't think was beneficial in any way. I don't think she did it out of a place of spite. I think she did it because she was, trying to give them more details. But once you hear certain details, it's not helpful to the family and certain things. So, and I could go on and on about the coroner. The idea that she's a criminal defense attorney at the same time that she's a coroner, I think could present a conflict down the road.
We've been saying that. I know. I guess you can do it, but we've been saying that. It's kind of weirdo shit. I guess if you're doing those roles, I guess it's just odd, because I get it. I don't know. I don't get it. It's a high profile case with these murders, and then I guess as a defense attorney, you have to, take on this case of this alleged wife beater, child beater, and this guy allegedly has a history of it. And these people don't ever stop it. People that do that kind of shit, they don't just wake up one day, oh yeah, you know what, I'm sorry. No, they continue to do that shit. And I guess you could say, oh yeah, well, let's get therapy. Maybe. I don't know. You shouldn't take that chance though. Leave the person, go get your therapy. If you figure that shit out on your own, but we're not gonna test this over here with that therapy stuff. You know, people really don't. They continue with that shit.
And the fact that she's continuing to defend people during this investigation. And she's done it before. I mean, the fact is that there was she was involved in she was a coroner on a murder investigation in Moscow years ago, and she also was the defense counsel on the case.
Damn.
Which is
iCkEdMeL, how dare you say it's a small town? That's ridiculous. We're over here doing everything.
blows my mind.
Yeah, that conflict of interest could be a problem, for sure. That case that he mentioned, we believe, is the James Curtis Leonard case. You can definitely check it out to see Mabbitt's role there. But he wasn't shy about criticizing her actions. Now, he did say that law enforcement hasn't indicated a suspect to the family, that they're keeping things close to the vest, including about that white Hyundai Elantra that police had asked the public's help in identifying. They said it was near the crime scene at the time of the killings. Anything anybody knows about the car or the occupants of the car. I will tell you this, according to Ann Jeanette, the Moscow County Police informed her that they are getting useful tips on that Hyundai Elantra.
Well, through our tips, through our leads, some of the evidence that came in, we start to identify patterns. And like we said earlier, we are confident that the occupant or occupants of that vehicle have information that's critical to this investigation. We also understand that even though there's sometimes a fascination with a particular case, some people simply don't see the news. And
somebody said, is she also a sheriff? Bruh, I at this point, no, I don't think she is. But that would be some shit. That'd be kind of funny.
May not know that we're looking for it. So if we get the word out there, hey, maybe your neighbor has one in the garage that they don't drive very often. Maybe there's one that's just not on the registration database. Let us know. So far, we have a list of approximately 22,000 registered white Hyundai Elantras that fit into our criteria that we're sorting through. That's an awful lot of information, but it may not be all of them. So the public can help us with that.
And Mr. Gray finally said that the reason a reward hasn't been put out for more information is because police were concerned that it's too early in the investigation to do.
Sure. How long you gonna wait? A year later?
That if they put out a reward, there could be a flood of non-useful information and leads. And as we continue to report on this case, we encourage anyone with useful information to call the tip line.
Okay, so there's that clip. Oh shoot, there it is. Okay. That was that. There was that. There was one other clip that I wanted to find, but I can't find that anymore. I don't know if they took it down. I guess let's get started on Nancy. What's the latest in this? I thought there was some other conspiracy people were going on. I know they've been going for the Inan guy. I've kind of been tuned out today. The surveillance stuff, the white Hyundai Elantra. Ooh. What the hell is this? Check this shit out. I haven't seen this. This was like 15 minutes ago. Let's see. Before we start the Nancy Grace, listen to this. Okay. Idaho murders update. White car linked to stabbing spotted on video supplied by homeowner. Police have recovered surveillance footage from a homeowner showing a passing white car at the time of the murders of 4 students of University of Idaho. Kane, who lives 0.3 miles from the murder scene on Moscow, Idaho, said detectives reached out to him on November 14, a day after 4 students were brutally murdered. The surveillance footage placed on top of his 6-unit rental building on Linda Lane showed a white car speeding on Taylor Road between 2:14 a.m. and 3:15 a.m. Interesting. On Sunday. Okay. So that's new. I haven't seen that yet. Wow. Yeah, that came out just a little bit ago. Kane. The next target. The next online target. Interesting. So we'll talk about that, I guess, tomorrow maybe. All right, let's listen to Nancy. See what's going on here.
Going back to school.
Released at
a full
in the area
here at Fox Nation and Sirius XM 111. First of all, take a listen to our sound of Chief James Fry, Moscow PD.
we have information of a white vehicle that was in the area either during the time frame of the homicide or around the time frame of the homicide, and we are just wanting to talk to the individuals who are in that vehicle. They may have some valuable information for us, and we're looking for a 2011 to a 2013 Hyundai Elantra. So any assistance you can give us, anybody that owns one, anybody that knows of someone who owns one or may have been driving one, if you could get a hold of us through our tip line or call us directly, we'd appreciate that.
That tip line 208-883-7180. Now listen, if we have all heard the chief begging for the owner of the Elantra to come forward thousands of miles away, don't you know that the actual owner of that Elantra has also heard it? Why aren't they knocking on the police door? But there's more. Before I go and introduce all of our guests, let me go straight out to Chris McDonough joining us, Director, Cold Case Foundation, former homicide detective. You can find him at coldcasefoundation.org. I found him on the interview room online. Chris, I want to talk to you specifically about video that you found of a newscast. There was a reporter standing out in the snow, and directly behind 1122 King, the murder house, you see a car similar to the white Elantra going right behind the house. And as you pointed out yesterday, you have to want to be in that location. You've got to know the neighborhood, one way in, one way out. Tell me what you saw on that video that you happened to catch.
Well, you know what, Nancy, after talking, to your team here on the show, I went back and took a look at some of the early footage from the, news services that were there. And I noticed over the left shoulder of one of the news reporters, what appeared to be a white car. And I sent that into your team and said, can anybody, take a closer look at this? This doesn't look right. And so that's where we're at right now. I thought it was really interesting knowing sometimes the behavior side of these individuals. They may return and or could be in that environment.
I want to point out, Chris McDonough, and to everybody on the panel, we all remember Scott Peterson. I can't remember if this is before or after he dyed his hair blonde. He would go, and police had a tracker on his vehicle. He would go back to the San Francisco Bay and look out over the water. What did he think? He was going to see Lacey and Connor pop up? Because that's where he put their bodies. He would go back and back and back to the scene. Also, if you recall the case of Sydney Sutherland, just a stunning young woman out jogging, and she was rammed by this farmer in the area who then molested and murdered her. And he also went back. He even acted like he was helping to search for her. So it's a common phenomenon that I don't understand. Cheryl McCollum joining me, forensic expert, founder of the Cold Case Research Institute at coldcasecrimes.org. We've seen it a lot. I've seen it in my own prosecutions.
Sure. It's pretty simple to me. They are getting something out of it, some sort of gratification. Like we all know arsonists love to go back and actually watch the burning. They love it.
Cheryl, I just said that before we started taping. I said arsonists love to do it, and here you are. Is this an echo chamber in here? Come up with your own stuff, McCollum, but go ahead about arsons.
But it's true. And regardless of what it is, even at a homicide scene, when I get there, one of the first things I do is take pictures of the crowd gathered. Because I don't know who's in that crowd, but I know later on we're going to go through it one person at a time.
You know who else always came to the scene? And I mean almost always? Wayne Williams.
Yes.
For those of you that have been living under a rock in a cave far, far away without any cell reception, Wayne Williams is credited with many of the Atlanta child murders. Then I would say maybe 3 or 4 other child well, they weren't children at this point. They were teens and older, were lumped in with him because the MOs were the same. But Wayne Williams murdered, oh gosh, at least a dozen young people in Atlanta.
Nancy,
jump in.
I worked on that case. I worked the Wayne Williams case in Atlanta back in the 80s. And he was just over the top. I know when we first started to surveil him, we found him coming off the bridge. He came up the hill.
The bridge where the dead body was floating under it in the water. That bridge. That's what we're talking about.
Floating. That was the problem.
Yeah, you're right. It was stuck. It was stuck in.
What's up, everybody?
Going back to school as a working adult doesn't mean you have to sacrifice a high-quality education. Purdue University, a top 10 public university, took its innovative thinking to a new level.
Dolls and trucks forward. Jump in.
I worked on it from the, news.
Young woman out jogging, and she was rammed by this farmer in the area who then molested and murdered her.
They love
Wayne Williams.
Yes.
For those.
I started over by accident. Oh, did I really? Oh, that was nice. I got a shutout tonight. I'm dragging right now, but we're going to get through this podcast. I figured we'd just jump on and listen. Let me get the super chats real quick. Stuck on Strings. Yes, it's like the Doors song. People are strange when you're a stranger. It's also like David Lynch project in real life. Thank you. Thank you for becoming a member too. Atlas Sorsa, thank you for becoming a member. Marilyn, thank you for the 10-month membership. Mel, I emailed you the Idaho requirements for a coroner. Okay, I'll check it out. Probably nothing, right? They just vote you in. Crime Solver, you see the car go one way and then back again after the murder behind the E-Porter shoulder. Ooh.
Those of you that have been living under a rock in a cave far, far away without any cell reception, Wayne Williams is credited with many of the Atlanta child murders.
Oh, yeah.
Then I would say maybe 3 or 4 other well, they weren't children at this point. They were teens and older, were lumped in with him because the MOs were the same. But Wayne Williams murdered, oh gosh, at least a dozen young people in Atlanta.
Nancy,
jump in.
I worked on that case. I worked the Wayne Williams case in Atlanta back in the 80s. And he was just over the top. I know when we first started to surveil him, we found him coming off the bridge. He came up the hill.
The bridge where the dead body was floating under it in the water. That bridge. That's what we're talking about.
Floating. That was.
I thought it was too that they heard a splash or something. They were staking out the place, waiting, trying to figure out, because I guess bodies were turning up in the water of the river, from what I remember. And I think it was literally the last night, and they were going to call off the sting operation, and that's when this guy drove over the bridge, I guess, and tossed the body into the water.
Well, yeah, you're right. It was stuck. It was stuck in some reeds. Go ahead.
There's another point to all of this, and it is that the Bureau often put microphones on cemetery tombstones.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. I want you to tell that story because it's so true.
What? Well, about Wayne Williams, we went to his house, but we didn't put him under permanent surveillance. And that night we learned later that there are boxes and boxes of material that were taken from the house, and we never found those.
He would go back to the scene, and this is really interesting, Cheryl. You and I have talked about this before. Not only would he go back to the scene where he would dump a dead body, he was somewhat of a media stringer.
Yep.
In other words, he would show up at events like a car crash, an arson, whatever, and take video.
He was a stringer. I forgot about that. And he would take pictures and stuff. And I think he would try to sell it or work with certain news organizations.
Of it, and then sell it to the news stations, to the big stations, the networks.
Oh, there's a movie about that, Night Watcher or something like that. There's a movie about that.
Thank you for your professional opinion, Dr. Priya Banerjee. Yes, there he is. Guys, you're hearing Dr. Priya Banerjee, board-certified forensic pathologist. You can find her at anchorforensicpathology.com. You are also hearing Dale Carson, high-profile lawyer out of Jacksonville, but also former FBI agent, author of Arrest Proof Yourself at dalecarsonlaw.com. So my point is, he was a stringer, and he would be at the scene of the crime. He'd get there sometimes before the police did. and claim he heard it on CB radio, on the police band radio. So it's not unusual. Is that Cheryl jumping in?
Was that what it was? Homeboy was committing the crimes, and then he's over here taking pictures shit too. And so he's like the first one there, and he's also making money off of the shit. I just happen to be here already.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say he had an actual press pass, and you got to remember this was 79 to 81.
And I think the whole thing with that story too, the way he was luring, I thought the way he was luring kids was like because he would be like, he was say he's doing this talent agency thing, and he was like looking for people with talent, people that sing and stuff like that, and he'd get like these young boys to come into his his studio or whatever.
There was no social media, so there was no better way for him to get an understanding of what the police knew and when they knew it, because he was watching where they were searching. He was asking them questions because he was, quote, a reporter.
Yeah, and Nancy,
Speaking is this Irv Brandt? Are we finally hearing from Irv Brandt, U.S. Marshal Service? Now listen, international investigations, also DOJ, also Solo Shot, author, that's coming out in January on Amazon, also author of Flying Solo on Amazon right now. Jump in, Irv.
Well, I was going to say something about, go back to the car, the white Elantra, that the chief of police was asking for more leads, and it occurred to me that they must have exhausted almost all their leads. It's like you were saying before, if you had one, you would call in. If your neighbor would call in on you. So they must have been inundated.
Oh, gosh, yes. They're saying they've got a fleet of analysts trying to wade through these leads. But you know what I'm also curious about? You're right, Irv Brandt. Chris McDonough, I mean, I looked at the video that you identified, and I see the car, and it's going kind of fast.
Yeah.
Down the hill on a decline right behind the murder house. Tell me, and I really enjoyed your drive-through. Well, I don't know if enjoyed is the right word, but it was in depth. For those of you that haven't looked at the interview room, you can find it. I Googled it, and I put in the interview room, Idaho, and there's a series of them, but they're all great. But this one really is fascinating because he gets in a car going very slowly, and he drives all the way through Moscow, turns left at the gas station, and takes you all the way up to 1122 King, where the 4 murders happened, and gives you basically a tour very slowly. And typically, I hate anything that's slow. But you have to have that for this. Just like when you analyze a crime scene, you cannot rush it. It may take you days or weeks to analyze that crime scene, but you don't want to miss a thing. And he goes really slowly and points out, well, here's the gas station. They may have video, and then they go up the hill, and you drive through, and you really see the murder scene and everything around it. So, Chris McDonough, what is that decline where we see the white, look like a 2-door white, look very much like an Elantra? But that said, where's that decline?
It's got to be right. It's right behind the house there. What also is interesting, Nancy, is the idea of.
So they're talking about this other sighting of damn, I just had the article, it disappeared. Another sighting of the Elantra, which is interesting. Let me just pull it up here. I mean, so there really may be something, obviously, to this vehicle. That's what we read earlier about this homeowner giving video where police have recovered surveillance footage from a homeowner showing a passing white car at the time of the murders. Kane, who lives just 0.3 miles from the murder scene in Moscow, Idaho, said detectives reached out to him on November 14. The surveillance footage placed on top of his 6-unit rental building on the Linda Lane showed a white car speeding west on Taylor Road between 2:14 and 3:15 a.m. Maybe they're getting somewhere.
That I think every one of us know on this call, the minutia details is really what puts some of the pieces, the bigger pieces of these puzzles together. And when I saw that car go by, I realized, I had not driven on that side. It's the other side of, the cul-de-sac area. So there is another access road. But then I thought to myself, okay, trying to put myself in the mind of the offender, what was he or she seeing? And that was also a really good spot to sit because you have a direct shot, visually into that home. And that could also have fed a fantasy to where that individual now takes it a little bit closer. And maybe that cinder block comes into play later on down through the process of building into this play and this horrific crime.
Man, bro.
Going back to
because this person I've been watching for a while.
School as a working adult and save
ton of advanced
home can be over
crime stories. It's video like that, I believe, that's going to crack this case. And another thing, Chris McDonough, everybody jump in on this. Here's an example. Remember Robert Blake? May he rot in hell. There's no doubt in my mind he had someone murder his wife. No, there's no doubt in my mind that he murdered Bonnie Blakely, his then wife. The murder weapon was like, what, Cheryl, a block away and a dumpster? Because he was locked in. He was wedded to that location. They had gone to dinner at Vitello's Italian restaurant. He left her in the car on this back alley, although he always parked in front of the restaurant. Always his favorite restaurant. But not that night. He parked behind it in a back alley. So he takes his wife to his car, according to him, then goes, oh my goodness, I left my gun in the restaurant. Of course, the busboy that cleaned the table, nobody found a gun in there. He goes back in, sits down, has a glass of water, and lo and behold, according to him, in those few moments, in that little window of time, his wife gets shot in the car, and they find the gun in a dumpster like a block away. Why? Because he couldn't leave the scene. He couldn't just drive away. He had to come in with this charade of pretending he was having a glass of water. He could not leave to dump the gun anywhere else. So what I'm saying, Chris McDonough, is that the killer could very well have thrown the weapon out the window, and we know which way the car is going.
It's a possibility for sure, and it should always be taken into consideration. They should run that area extensively with metal detectors and that type of stuff to make sure that possibility is taken out of the window.
I could see it happening. I know a lot of people think that doesn't happen. It does.
It does.
Yep.
We are also learning at this hour that, according to the father of Kaylee Goncalves, we knew her wounds, according to him, were different than the other wounds. But now we're learning more. Take a listen to our friend Morgan Norwood.
The father of victim Kaylee Goncalves is blasting police, demanding with the killer on the loose, officers release more information to the public. Steve Goncalves saying they're just being cowards. There are girls walking around the street right now that deserve to know. He also revealed to Fox News that his daughter suffered big open wounds and that the killer used a strong weapon.
I haven't earned the ability to grieve the way that I want to grieve. I want to be able to have justice first.
The family is now raising money to hire a private investigator.
Detectives haven't said who may have been the target, but Goncalves says his daughter suffered more gruesome wounds than the other victims.
He is describing them as open gouges. Now listen to our friends at Crime Online.
Steve Goncalves said...
And I don't think that whole thing was made up. I know a lot of people were like, some people were really upset with Fox or whatever. If you've just been watching this entire thing and how things have been going, like, it's totally plausible to me that at some point the father had told Fox these intimate details. Like, it's not surprising. That's what he was doing before. And I think they would have had to take it down, especially that they lawyered up if Fox had just made it up, let me get this. Shelly, thank you for the 14-month membership. I need to. Can I text you something? Proud of you, Mel. I think you have my old number, which is still active, but it's like a paperweight. I'm gonna have to text you from the new number. I'll text you. Thank you, Shayla. I hope you guys are doing good. Hope your husband's doing good too. Kara, thank you for the 10-month membership. Look up Jagger's latest Insta post from tonight. Oh shit, Jagger. Are they still going for Jagger? That what's that guy's name? Jared Lysick still being a weirdo, hustling, trying to hustle hard. Jagger. Let's take a look. Yeah, Jared, let me see what he said. Oh, let's go, baby. Let's go. So they still coming for Jagger, man? I'm not laughing that they're coming for him, but I'm just like, these weirdo, cracked out people, they're still on this story, yo. Like months later, these people don't have a life. I'm confused as to why all you effing tweakers think I have Kylie's car. She was found in. I don't look at my posts. It's quite obvious now. Shut up. They still come. Who's doing that? And you gotta have like a lot of time in your hands. You still targeting this kid? God damn, bro. These people are just losers, man. Still coming for this guy? Or it's because of the video. Is it because the video Jared dropped out? Released? Let's see. Look at me. I have my ex-girlfriends. I don't know what this is. It's hard to see. Hold on a second. Where the hell do I go back? Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know why it's not letting me go back. Damn. Let me look it up on my phone real quick. I really can't believe these people are still coming for this kid. Yeah, he left a really, let me screenshot this. Look at me. I have my ex-girlfriend's car who I dated for 2 minutes and was way too hot for me. I'm not getting enough attention anymore, so I will pretend I'm psychotic and sport her phone and the car that she died in for more attention. It's embarrassing. And the pictures you posted of her looking like she couldn't wait to go on a date with anyone but you. You could see in her eyes, her facial expression, that she was not into you. These people are so dumb. So I guess somebody had DM'd him this stuff. I don't know why it won't let me go back to it on my computer. But these people, these fucking weirdo people DMing this kid. All right. And so he had sent, I guess, quick little shout out to this chick. Move on. She didn't want you. And wherever she is, I'm sure she could have the best of the best. No one in time would have been good enough. In a few years, she would have gone so far. She still can. And I'm sure laughing like every single one of us at how needy you're acting. Quick shout out to this chick. So I guess it looks like somebody DM'd him this, and he's kind of being sarcastic by saying, quick little shout out to this chick. Love the support. It's really shitty stuff to do, man. These people got no life. I just like, I don't know, like, I just can't imagine a person that takes their time to like message these people, because I never go out of my way like that. To like and like long ass paragraphs too, like Jesus. So apparently they're still coming for him. Thank you for sending that, sharing that with me. Let's see who else. Okay, so yeah, Kara, thank you for that. Tracy, thank you for the amazing super chat. Woo, appreciate it. Latest breaking news: Jack D, Jack S, Jack X, Jack off, Jack in the box, Jack, and there was a Jack in the box thing. I can't even lie. Somebody has sent me a screenshot I guess they were eating Jack in the Box. There was like this box shit. So that thing got thrown in there too. Jake are the same people, owns White Elantra and lawyered up with the coroner. Obviously, I'm joking, but the debunked misinformation still being circulated. Repetitiveness, confusion hurts my brain. That's why I almost just kind of tune out. I just can't anymore. Piney Woods Law and Crime. Check out Plunder and Detective Ken Maines discussing the case with a guy on death row. Also consider all of the locks on all of the doors before murders. Thank you. Yeah, Plunder's a good channel. Beautiful Disaster. I think it really could be a duo group. This keeps reminding me of the true crime movie The Bully. All the murders similar, crossing male and female victims. Royal Pain, thank you for the Prime subscription. Thanks for all you do. Congrats on your successes. So well deserved. Thank you, Royal Pain. Amazing on Twitch. All right, let's keep rolling. Jack in the Box.
His daughter's injuries definitely did not match that of her best friend Madison Mogen's wounds. They may have individually died from the exact same thing, being stabbed, but there are more details. They're not even close to matching. The knife slashed open Kaylee Goncalves' liver and lungs, according to her father, Steve. The grieving father paid for a copy of his daughter's death certificate, which included some of the details of her injuries. But he doesn't know whether his daughter or Mogen were the targets. He said, I have my own suspicions. Now, elected Coroner Mabet, when reached by phone, declined to comment on the information that she disclosed to.
That's the one thing I see Putin cancel me to incels. I'm still leaning kind of somewhat incel like, or somewhat that type of behavior, some weirdo. I mean, I guess there's a lot of guys like that nowadays. It seems like it.
Goncalves.
I'm very surprised that the elected coroner didn't talk about that too, since she's blabbed about every single aspect of this case. It's like a gumball machine. You put in a quarter and all of a sudden all these gumballs start just falling out. There's no screening whatsoever before she'll blurt something out. Everything that's being released could somehow be twisted and used by the killer somehow, some way. Or some nut claiming they're the killer. And that will throw the entire investigation off course. You just heard our friends at Crime Online. Take a listen to more.
The father of slain University of Idaho student Kaylee Goncalves told Fox News Digital that the victims had big open gouges that were clearly the work of a sadistic male and called police cowards for not sharing more with the public. Steve Goncalves said he asked the coroner, Kathy Mabet, how many times the victims were stabbed. Now, this is what Steve Goncalves claimed Mabet told him. She says, sir, I don't think stabs is the right word. It was like tears, like this was a strong person, not like a stab. She said these were big open gouges. She said it was quick. These weren't something where you were going to be able to call 911. They were not going to slowly bleed out.
Okay, number one, that is throwing me for a loop. Did you hear what she says to the victim's dad? That they were big open gouges, the work of a, quote, sadistic male. Why, number one, why is she blurting all this out? Jump in, Karen Stark.
I can't think of anything more horrific than speaking to the dad of the victim and describing in detail what the wounds look like. It's stunningly awful. I mean, think about it.
I don't know what this woman's thinking. This registered nurse / lawyer that somehow managed to fall up into the coroner's position. Karen Stark, you heard her voice. That's a New York psychologist joining us out of Manhattan at KarenStark.com, Karen with a C. I mean, you know.
And as far as this whole thing with the vehicle, there's this liquor store too. Oh, so I saw someone in the chat had mentioned this, and they were like, "Oh, have you seen all the locations that they got surveillance from?" And so I've been tuned out since yesterday. Really, honestly, I kind of like today. I didn't really check for updates and stuff, but it says here the liquor store in Moscow, Idaho, turned over surveillance video to police within the last week. There are cameras inside and outside the building. Not sure what was on the video, but I'm told law enforcement has everything. then we got, let's take a look here. Brian Enton, liquor store police got surveillance video. The liquor store police got surveillance video from is in a different part of Moscow from the gas station. So different areas. Because I was kind of looking at this too, and you're like, is it almost the same area, same place, but it's different locations? He's clarifying from the gas station where the video of the white car came from. Both roughly a mile from the house, but in different directions. So they're kind of like, to me, it's like they can kind of piece together different locations to check where this vehicle might have been. So we got, here's the liquor store where the police took the video from. We got gas station where the video was taken from. This A&W restaurant, I haven't heard of that yet. Moscow police said they started looking for surveillance video the day of the crime and around the crime scene. They said that they've expanded as they got more investigators to the area and started putting together teams. Moscow, Idaho police again today said that they are confident the occupant or the occupants of the white Hyundai Elantra have information critical to the investigation. Okay.
White Hyundai Elantra car registrations, mainly from Idaho and Washington. Investigators believe a car matching that description was near the house.
I mean, it's good that they're doing this, but whoever this is probably either gone or hiding the vehicle. If they're in town, it's gonna be hard to hide that vehicle in town unless you gotta put it in a garage or somewhere in the wilderness. Because even the other day they were talking about that they had contacted like Border Patrol, but I'm thinking like they're probably gonna be gone by now. Ooh, I've got words. I've been meaning to talk about that too. I've got words says, and thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Daily Mail reports Athena Strand's father, Jacob, is suing both FedEx and her killer. Ooh, I had a feeling that was kind of going to come down the pipeline. I wonder if they're really going to be able to sue FedEx for that contract hire. But maybe they'll just settle just to kind of like try to quiet things down. I don't know.
Where 4 University of Idaho students were murdered more than 1 month ago.
With all the publicity this case is getting, I would be thinking that the driver of that white Elantra, if they had nothing to do with this, why wouldn't they have called already?
That's a great question. You know, it could be, you know, they don't know. It's hard to imagine, but that's why we're asking the public. Someone just could have been coming through town. It just could have been a vehicle that happened to be there, you know, ranging to whatever possibility you can imagine.
Police are not saying exactly how.
Unless they were the killers.
They know the Hyundai was near the house where the murders happened, but say they started looking for surveillance almost immediately.
Well, we started looking for video the day of the crime. Officers on scene, before I even arrived, had identified certain residences in the area that had video cameras.
News Nation learning this liquor store handed over surveillance video to police within the last week. Detectives also showed up to this vape shop 9 days after the murders, but an employee told me their system deletes video after 1 week, and police showed up too late.
We also went to a vaping shop where they mentioned that police had come 9 days after the murder and that the video had already been deleted. That's got some people concerned. Should police have gotten there sooner?
If you remember, early on in the investigation, police investigators asked for all video around the area of the homicides, and even specified where on a map we wanted that video from. So that was important for us to ask for anything, even if somebody thought it was important or not. And that collection process is what led us to seek more information about this white Hyundai Elantra.
Okay.
Inside.
Okay. This vape shop video, I played it earlier already. Played it at the beginning of the stream. It looks like Brian Enton is investigating and kind of like walking throughout all the stores or businesses in the area and talking to people, kind of finding out information. All right.
You know, Cheryl McCollum, why is this woman continuing to talk? Why would she tell the dad those intimate details of the murder of his daughter, saying, no, they're not just stab wounds. They're big, open gouges. They're more like tears inflicted by a, quote, sadistic male.
Hey, Nancy.
Even allowing her to think that something worse has happened to his daughter than anyone else. Why does he need that information? That doesn't help him.
Well, Nancy, let's talk reality.
Okay, go. Go, Cheryl.
Let's talk reality a minute. The daddy's going to find out anyway, and he says it in one of the interviews when he talks about paying for that funeral. He paid for that information. The funeral director knew. There were repairs that funeral director had to make. And if she was attacked, like I believe she probably was, around the face, around the throat, around the chest, he already knew that. So by her telling him the truth, I will say this, telling a family the truth is much better than telling them crap like they didn't suffer. It was quick.
Well, I think they need the truth too, but I disagree with the coroner blabbing.
Yeah. Yes, that's a big issue.
Hold on.
Yeah, because even if he paid for it or whatever, I don't know what kind of guidelines the coroner has to follow, if there's any, but I mean, if he pays and finds out the information, that's what he did. But like for you to release certain bits, you know, I don't know. And that's what he was talking about in that interview when he said that he paid for it, he earned it. It was, I guess I don't know, I guess because of the funeral services or the death certificate, the funeral home, which has certain information on there, I guess.
Guys, you're hearing Dr. Priya Banerjee, board-certified forensic pathologist at anchorforensicpathology.com. Jump in, Dr.
She was cremated, yeah. She was cremated. That's what I heard. But they still look at them. I don't know what the process is right before they cremate somebody.
Dr. Priya?
Yeah, like, first of all, I've done over 150 homicides. I speak to families, but you have to be very judicious about what you say. You know, I think it's a very fine line. You can comment that there were severe wounds and they bled out quickly, you know, without making it more, I don't know, horrifically descriptive. I do agree that the funeral director would have known, but I don't think it's appropriate. Like, they're not going to show a wounded body to the dad with the gashes.
You know, Dr. Priya, I just got to stop you 1 minute because this is giving me horrible flashbacks about my fiance's murder. He was shot 5 times, leaving the work site. He was on a construction job at lunchtime to bring everybody back soft drinks in a very remote area.
Oh, my God.
And I always knew that he was shot 5 times, just like Kaylee Goncalves' dad knows that she was stabbed. But I don't know, Cheryl. I hear what you're saying, but I don't know about this. Telling the dad that she's ripped open and open gouges. It's just, ugh.
It's excessive. It's excessive and unnecessary.
And it really creates a very vivid picture.
What does that mean, Dr. Priya, that her liver and lungs were stabbed? What does that tell you about the wound specifically? Let me draw on your medical expertise.
Yeah, so a stab wound is deeper than it is long. And so you're going deep into the body in very blood-rich organs. So they're going to bleed a lot and quickly. So, you know, that it's not instantaneous, but it's quick because all that blood's going to collect in the body and possibly drain out. It's going to be a bloody knife. So that's important for blood spatter, as we talked about earlier. And so it's a very up close and personal attack. That's the thing. It's a lot of anger, hate. Stabbing is not, you know, distant. You have to be close to the person to do it.
What does that mean medically, forensically, that Kaylee Goncalves was stabbed in the liver. What does that mean about the depth of the stab wounds?
Yeah, I mean, they're hitting major organs. They know that if I stab her here, this is going to be a fatal wound.
How deep do you have to stab someone to hit their liver?
They were thin people, but at least a few inches.
So these were... Okay, and Jackie is furiously waving a note at me again. It's like we're at NASCAR. She's saying he paid for the autopsy report. I thought he paid for the death certificate.
As a practice, release an autopsy report in my old office for an open homicide.
No, you do not. That's why I was curious.
Didn't he pay for a private
Dave
autopsy?
Mack, did he get a copy of the death certificate or the autopsy?
I believe that he is mistaken in his wording, that he got a copy of the death certificate. And then he filled in the blanks of the conversation.
Okay, the death certificate is different from the autopsy. Very, very different. Explain it, Dr. Priya.
Yeah, I mean, the death certificate is a one-page sheet with lots of lines, but basically it has a cause of death and the manner of death, which is homicide. That's it. It doesn't go into the description, numbers, death.
I mean, the way she said it, this woman. But, you know, Cheryl McCollum, back to what you said, and I'm not saying you're wrong. At the time of my fiance's murder, I was so numb. It's actually like a horrible blur. I have just vague recollections of this moment and that moment. It's very, very vague in my mind. It was just blinded by like pain. That's what I remember.
Absolutely.
But if the dad goes to the medical examiner and says, tell me the truth, spare no detail. If he did that, you know, that I can understand her talking to him.
Hey, I want to make 2 points real quick. Number one, if you listen to that daddy, he's telling you about what he had to go through at the funeral parlor. And
gosh.
I'm telling you, if that director had to give them information like, we need a high collar, he knows already. And Nancy, you and I remember a detective that told the family how quick the homicide was, that their loved one didn't suffer. And then when you're in court, you're describing exactly what happened and how long that child stayed alive. You have no
Thanks,
right.
Cheryl, for all the good memories.
But you have to tell
it
the
happened.
truth.
It happened. And I asked my detective, please remove the family from the courtroom while I question the medical examiner. Did he do it?
Often the case.
H-E-double-L. No, he didn't. And I lied into the medical examiner, and I'm telling the jury this happened and this happened and this happened. And he did it. And and the family broke down and cried, and I turned around, and there they were. Thanks, Ernest. Yes, I remember it. Thank you, Cheryl, for that happy memory.
But they should have been told the truth.
Yes. If they had asked me, I would have told them. If they had asked me point blank, I would tell them. Otherwise, I don't want to make a victim's family feel worse than they already feel. Okay, you know what? Wait. I blame you for this, Jackie Howard. I blame you for letting this roller coaster just fly off the rails. Okay, back to the wounds. I'm trying to figure out what we can learn from gouges versus stab wounds versus punctures, and that go all the way into the lungs and liver. I can see a stab to the chest going straight to the lungs, but going to the liver, that is a very, very deep stab wound. Okay, there's more happening. Jump in, Dale.
It's a military exercise, and I've often thought that the individuals had some military training.
Oh my goodness, were you in the military?
No.
So you're just kind of like making this up as you go?
No, I'm not making it up. I've handled cases where that's been the case.
Okay. Now I'm listening. Go ahead.
So it's not unusual for them to train in that manner. And, you know, there are in the prisons, people train with knives all the time in preparation for this sort of protection and behavior. So it's not unusual to have people in the culture who are really good with knives, and we're going to find that that's true here.
Much has been made about a group of students that were seen in the background on body cam footage. There's a lot of online sleuths. Hey, I'm not knocking them. I'm not knocking them at all, that have had a lot of questions about that group. Take a listen to this.
Hey, Moscow Police, come back here. Meanwhile, Inside Edition has obtained this body cam video taken on the night of the murders, a short distance from the house.
It's one thing to drink in an apartment where no one can see you. It's another thing for us to drive by and see you guys absolutely stumbling down the road.
3 freshmen were cited for underage drinking. Note the time, 3:15 a.m. Police say the murders could have been taking place at that very moment. The 3 were cited near the Sigma Chi fraternity where Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle attended a party. Look how close it is to the murder house.
As a matter of fact, you can look through the Sigma Chi window and look directly into the murder scene. That was our friend Les Trent with Inside Edition. Now listen to Crime Online.
Moscow, Idaho police recently released body cam footage of plainclothes officers as they made a stop of 3 University of Idaho students for suspected underage drinking at about 2:50 a.m. November 13th as they were walking across a field off Taylor Avenue in between the Sigma Chi frat house and the girls' rental home. If you look closely, several people can be seen walking in the background of the police body cam video. It was taken near the King Road home where the students were killed in their sleep on November 13th. At about the same time this body cam video was shot. Police have previously said investigators found nothing of evidentiary value on the body cam videos, but it remains unclear whether they have identified or interviewed the people walking in the background. So far, police aren't commenting.
Chris McDonough joining me, host of The Interview Room. Now, you indicated to me that you believe these people stumbling around did not appear to be coming from the murder scene 1122 King. Is that correct?
Yes, right, Nancy. It looks like they're coming from, apparently there was a party at that same, that was just kind of breaking up around 0300. And it looks like they're coming down Taylor Street past those officers who were sitting in that apartment complex directly across from the band field. So the path of entry is directly up into the 1122, the target house. So that road in front of the house, those individuals they do not appear to be on that particular road coming from the area.
Even so, Chris McDonough, don't you think it would be important to track them down and everyone down that was at the particular party you're describing to find out what, if anything, they saw that night?
Yeah, and that's 100% accurate, Nancy. But what is really interesting is there's now information floating around. If you isolate the sound on the officer's body camera, people are saying that they're hearing things that potentially could be coming from that house. That's
such as
stop. It sounds. I was digging into it last night, and I've actually asked for the body camera to hear it myself so I can isolate it. So it's interesting. There's something going on behind that sound, the officer's voice. There, you can hear other things in the background, the ambient noise. And I think it's kind of like the reporter looking over his shoulder and saying, hey, that looks like a white car. I think there's going to be something behind that audio.
Wow. You know what, Cheryl McCollum, it may be nothing, but it could absolutely be something.
No question about it. And I'll tell you, even if something's not there, that's important too. So if we don't hear screams, if we don't see that car, if we don't.
Everything is something and nothing is everything and everything is nothing and something at the same time. So whether you see something or you don't see something, it could mean something, it could mean nothing. So just the take home to take with that. All right. All right.
Don't see anybody fighting or, more kids walking in groups. That's important as well. When you're in any kind of search, what is there and what is not there is both critical information.
Going back to school as a working adult doesn't mean you have to sacrifice a high-quality education. Purdue University, ranked as a top 10 public university in the U.S. by the Wall Street Journal, took its innovative thinking to a new level when it created Purdue Global for working adults. Earn your degree online and advance your career classes.
They were getting way more action than we do. Until then, I guess I'll keep listening to podcasts and
tips that'll help you buy your first home. Listen on wherever you get your podcasts and learn more by visiting beginnertobuyer.com.
Crime Stories with Nancy Grace.
Dale Carson joining us out of Jacksonville, former FBI agent, now lawyer. Dale, they've got to enhance that body cam footage, as well as track down every single person they can from that party. Anything could count.
That's exactly right. And you have real-time footage about the time the murder may have taken place. So if you can effectively enhance it, which the Bureau certainly has that capability, then you may be able to see images develop that we wouldn't otherwise know about. They may include the white car. They may include individuals. We just don't know at this point.
We now learn that police are doubling back on individuals they had previously cleared. Take a listen to Captain Roger Lanier.
They have re-interviewed some of the folks we've interviewed earlier in this investigation to clarify information. Sometimes when new information comes forward, the people that we've spoken to beforehand may have new insight on that. So it does often seem like we're backtracking, but we're really just trying to get the most important details and the best timeline that we can come up with.
I find that very significant, Irv Brandt, that they are doubling back on people that they had previously cleared and re-questioning them. What, if anything, do you make of it, Irv?
Well, Nancy, with 30 years of investigating cases, I can tell you that the longer that an investigation goes on, the more often you do this. People, potential witnesses, potential suspects, will give more information with each interview, because some people just actually, remember to say things that they didn't think of before. So it is standard, the longer an investigation goes on, for investigators to do this. I don't find it out of the ordinary at all.
I don't either. I've got to say, Cheryl, as you well know, we would double back, or at least I would, and speak to witnesses over and over and over.
And they said
that is not schooling them.
They said they have done that, though. I think in multiple interviews that the chief has made, he said that they have re-interviewed. I thought I've heard him say that a couple times, that they've re-interviewed people that they've talked to already,
What to say on the stand. That's helping me to understand what questions I need to ask and clarify things, or things, as Irv just pointed out, we didn't think of to start with.
And that's true for the person talking to law enforcement too. If you say to somebody, did you what happened that morning? And they just tell you their normal routine and what happened. But if you go back and say, did you see anything unusual days leading up to the murders? Then they may say, I saw this car driving real slow a lot. So people will remember things, and they will answer, and you know this better than anybody, Nancy, what you ask them. A lot of times witnesses will not answer what you don't ask, and they'll say, well, nobody ever asked me about the white van or the orange Mustang, so you have to go back.
But there's another side to all of this.
Yeah.
The other side to all of this is that you're looking for variations in testimony. And it surprises me that they wouldn't take sworn affidavits from each of the people that they removed from possibility, so that they can compare those two and see if there's someone who's lying.
For all we know, they did, Dale, and that's a very good point. For all we know, they did. Another fact that has reared its head is the possibility that the girls were adding locks to their individual doors. Take a listen to Les Trent, Inside Edition.
Did the bedroom doors of the 4 murdered University of Idaho students have electronic locks like this? A former tenant posted this photo and says all 6 bedrooms had combination locks.
It's believed the students had a lock on their door similar to this. This is a keypad lock, and I'm at AAA Architectural Hardware in Manhattan with Richard Brown, who is the owner. Are these things reliable?
They're very reliable when they're installed properly and when they're used properly. You press the code that was pre-programmed in, push down on the lever handle, open the door, and then close the door behind you. And it should be locked.
Okay, let me understand. Joining me is Dave Mack, crimeonline.com investigative reporter, and anyone on the panel, jump in. You may have covered this on the interview room, and Cheryl, you and I were talking about this off camera. Dave, what do we know about one of the girls in the home? Remember, there were 6 people, 5 girls that lived in the home, 5. One had moved out. Her name was on the lease before the term started. She wasn't there. There were 2 downstairs. There were 2 other girls. And then there was, of course, Ethan. So what do we know about them adding locks to their doors? And did each door have a coded lock? What, if anything, do we know, Dave?
What we do know, each bedroom door had a coded keypad lock. Also, we know that 1 week before the murders, Xana Kernodle's dad actually was asked by Xana to come up and fix the lock on her door.
Yeah.
We don't know if he fixed it by installing a new one. They haven't said. But we know that 1 week before the killing, he was up there working on the lock, which means it wasn't working properly a week before this all happened. We know that oftentimes in situations like this, where you have a number of people coming into a home, that sometimes those codes, the key codes for the different rooms, get shared. Somebody who had been there before might have had access to that key code and was able to punch it and go in.
Wow. We do know, as Dave Mack just pointed out, that one of the dads had been there repairing a lock. I believe, was it Mr. Kernodle? Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
So Xana needed her lock fixed.
And that's critical. That's critical, Nancy, to understand.
Go ahead, jump in, because I'm trying to figure out if all the bedroom doors had digital locks.
Right. Because obviously what that's going to tell us now is a little bit about, the victimology as well as the suspectology here.
Can I tell you where that information came from? We learned that a previous tenant told Fox Digital that he had lived there and he had a coded lock on his door. Yeah. Like all the other bedrooms.
So I guess all this is kind of old news. All this stuff we've already covered it. I guess that's it for tonight. It's kind of late. It's 2 a.m. I'm going to feel like death when I wake up tomorrow, like at, 7 a.m. Or I really should be waking up like at 6 something. Where's M video? I don't know. What's M video? What's that mean? I don't even know what to think about this story, man. Like, I hope I guess they are getting stuff. They are getting leads, I guess, since they're getting all this, they're taking all this camera footage, Wisconsin. Yeah, I know. Make sure you guys check out the channel sponsor, Swag It, man. The link's up top. I'm going to plan. I can't even believe it's already like, damn, time is flying. So next Friday, we're going to have a fun stream. I have no idea what we're going to do. I want to plan that stream a couple of days ahead. And what I'll do is I think we're going to do some fun videos. I think we'll watch some fun videos, maybe take some calls. We'll see what happens. I'm sure who knows what's going to happen. And maybe we'll drink and chill. And then about 2 hours in, we'll announce the winners, $1,000 giveaway. So definitely check out the Swag It sponsor. All you got to do is download the app. It's US only. Download the app. Follow me on there, and that's it. You're entered to win, and you get swag bucks on there, which you can convert swag bucks into gift cards or like a PayPal. And so I recently got $200 because I post videos on there. I get a lot more swag bucks. People are sending me swag bucks all the time, and so I'm sending it. I try to send it back to people as well, and so I get like a bunch of points on there. So I cashed out $200 recently. So, which is not bad. I'm already doing the sponsor stuff, and then I'm getting the extra swag book stuff on top of it. If you have questions with that, if you have issues, either send me an email or something with their username and email. And what I do is I'll just try to forward it to them. I'll forward it to the people so they can, whatever needs to be fixed, they can do it. And they do have a customer service thing too over there. I'll find out. I'll talk to Joe tomorrow on the phone. But if you need to contact me, I'll forward your information over so they can get it resolved. And they've been pretty good about things because anytime I've ever had something, whenever they can, they fix it. They have fixed issues for me. So, also, it's Swagbucks is Swag It is a video platform. They're trying to compete, I think, with like TikTok and like Reels, Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, whatever. So it's a video platform. I think it's like a minute long, and that's basically what it is. And also definitely check out, whenever you want, check out the Data Seal sponsor. I'm just plugging it in, but this stream was really just can't even think. Swag it. Damn, I said Data Deal. I didn't even type it right. Data Seal. I need to get some good sleep. Thank you, Mo. I can't even type over here. But yeah, we'll be following what happens. There's a lot of good things coming up too on the channel. We're gonna have some fun on the 23rd, hopefully. I'd be kind of dope if there was a chase while we're doing that stream. But we're gonna do a giveaway during that stream, have a lot of fun, and who knows what's gonna come, man. And probably need to start mixing in some other stories too. So we'll see. But there's been a lot of going on, a lot of good stuff too, a lot of good stuff for the channel. So. Good night. Love you guys. Take care. Peace. Bye. Bloop, bloop. There is a lot of night owls. I'm shocked that there's so many people on at this time. I mean, I know there's a lot of West Coast people, so maybe that's why. Shit. What's going on? There's a lot of people on at this time. All right. Well, that's